A maintenance engineer, an orbital station, and a creature that shouldn't exist. When the Ravager of 6 tears through Station Kepler, Daehyun has seconds to decide, run or save a child he's never met. He chooses the impossible. Armed with nothing but a plasma cutter, he charges straight into death itself. The child survives, but her mother isn't just grateful, she's the Empress of 40 star systems. And now, Talani can't stop thinking about the human who treated her like a person, not a throne. Advisors rage, the Empire fractures, assassins strike, but Daehyun refuses to walk away. 3 moons rise over Velora as Talani offers him a ring that's protected 7 generations of Empresses. He says yes, but in a universe where love between species is rebellion, where every kiss is treason, can a maintenance worker and an Empress actually survive what comes next?
The maintenance bay of the orbital station smelled like burnt metal and ozone. Daehyun wiped sweat from his forehead as he welded another support beam into place. 3 years working on Station Kepler had taught him that space construction was 90% patience and 10% praying nothing exploded. As the only human engineer on a crew of 40 different species, he'd learned to keep his head down and his work perfect. "Daehyun, we have problem," clicked Ren, his supervisor. The insectoid aliens' translators struggled with human names. "Imperial transport coming. Big trouble." Daehyun set down his torch. "What kind of trouble?" "The kind where we all pretend to be busy." Ren's antennae flattened against his head, a sign of genuine fear. Empress Talani herself inspects station. The name meant nothing to Daehyun, but the way every alien in the bay suddenly found urgent work to do told him everything. Within minutes, the massive transport docked, and security forces in gleaming armor poured out. Behind them walked a woman who made Daehyun's breath catch. She wasn't human, but close enough to be striking. Blue-gray skin, silver hair that floated as if underwater, and eyes like molten gold. She moved with the absolute confidence of someone who'd never been told no. Empress Talani of the Valoran Empire. His neural implant informed him, pulling data from the station network. Ruler of 40 systems. Current mission: hunting the Ravager of 6. What's a Ravager? Daehyun muttered. His implant flashed a warning just as the alarms began screaming. The station lurched violently, throwing workers across the bay. Through the reinforced windows, Daehyun saw something that shouldn't exist outside nightmares. A creature the size of a shuttle, all teeth and chitin and too many limbs, was tearing through the station's outer hull like paper. The Ravager of 6, his implant supplied helpfully. Apex predator. No known weaknesses. Fatality rate, 100%. Seal the bay. Someone screamed, but Daehyun saw what they didn't. A small figure, clearly Valoran by her clothing, but much younger than the Empress, had been thrown through a breached doorway into an access corridor. The Ravager's massive head turned toward her, drawn by movement. The child was maybe 10 years old by human standards. She looked up at the creature with wide golden eyes, frozen in terror. Every instinct screamed at Daehyun to run the other way. Instead, he grabbed a plasma cutter and sprinted toward the access corridor. The Ravager's roar shook his bones. Up close, it was worse than any video could convey. Its skin seemed to drink light, and its breath reeked of decomposition. The creature lunged at the child, and Daehyun threw himself between them, swinging the plasma cutter in a wild arc. The tool was meant for metal, not flesh, but the superheated blade bit deep into one of the creature's forelimbs. The Ravager shrieked and recoiled. Daehyun grabbed the child, who weighed almost nothing, and ran. Behind them, the creature recovered and gave chase, its claws sparking against the metal floor. Daehyun's mind raced. The maintenance tunnels were too narrow for the Ravager's bulk. He spotted a service hatch and dove through it, pulling the child with him. They tumbled into a crawl space barely wide enough for Daehyun's shoulders. The Ravager slammed against the hatch, bending the metal inward. Its claws scraped through the gap, missing Daehyun's leg by centimeters. He pushed the child deeper into the tunnel and kept the plasma cutter between them. And certain death dot, then the Ravager's screaming changed pitch. Through the damaged hatch, They saw Empress Talani standing in the corridor, her hands glowing with blue energy. She spoke words in a language that predated human space travel, and the energy coalesced into chains of light that wrapped around the Ravager. The creature thrashed, but the chains held. More Valoran soldiers arrived, adding their power to the Empress's. Together, they dragged the Ravager away from the hatch and toward a containment field. The entire battle lasted maybe 3 minutes, but Daehan's hands shook like he'd run a marathon. "Are you harmed?" A voice asked in perfect Korean. Daehan looked up to find the Empress crouched at the hatch opening. Her golden eyes studied him with an intensity that made him feel like a specimen under glass. "I'm fine," he managed. "The kid?" The child peeked out from behind Daehan, then launched herself at the Empress with a cry of "Neela." Talani caught her, relief flooding her features for just a moment before the Imperial mask slammed back into place. "You saved my daughter's life," Talani said, her voice carefully neutral. "That requires appropriate reward." "I don't need a reward. I just need to know she's okay." Something shifted in the Empress's expression. Surprise, maybe. "You are human. Guilty as charged." "I have never met a human who charged an apex predator to save a stranger." Talani's head tilted slightly. "Your species has a reputation for cleverness, not bravery." Daehan shrugged. "Guess I missed that memo." The Empress's daughter, who'd been watching this exchange with bright curiosity, tugged on her mother's sleeve and spoke rapidly in Valoran. Talani's eyebrows rose. She studied Daehan again, this time with what might have been actual interest rather than imperial assessment. "My daughter, Neela, wishes to thank you properly. She says you smell like starlight." "That's probably the welding fumes." A ghost of a smile touched Talani's lips. It transformed her face from merely striking to genuinely beautiful. "Come to the transport. Let my healers ensure you took no injury. It is the least I can do." Daehan wanted to refuse, to get back to his simple life of welding and avoiding attention. But Neela was looking at him with such hopeful eyes, and Talani's expression held something that might have been loneliness hidden under layers of imperial authority. Against his better judgment, he nodded. The interior of the imperial transport made Station Kepler look like a garbage scow. Everything gleamed with wealth and power. Servants moved with practiced silence, and Valoran guards tracked Daehan's every step. He'd never felt more out of place in his life. A healer examined him in a medical bay that probably cost more than Earth's entire GDP. She declared him unharmed but exhausted, prescribed rest, and left with a bow to the Empress that spoke of generations of protocol. Neela sat on the edge of the examination bed, swinging her legs and chattering at Daehan and Valoran. His implant caught maybe one word in 5, but her tone was clear enough. Excitement, gratitude, and the universal energy of a child who just had an adventure. "She says you move faster than the royal guards," Talani translated. The Empress stood by the viewport, arms crossed, watching her daughter with an expression that was purely maternal. "She wants to know if all humans are so quick." "Adrenaline is a hell of a drug," Daehan said. "Is she really okay?" That was terrifying. "She will have nightmares," Talani said quietly. "But yes, she will be well. Thanks to you." The Empress turned from the viewport. "Why did you do it? You could have sealed the bay and been safe. Could you have lived with yourself if you'd done that?" "I am an Empress. I make those choices every day, and I feel sorry for you." The words came out before Daehan could stop them. He braced for anger, imprisonment, maybe execution. Instead, Talani laughed. It was a rusty sound, like a skill long forgotten. "No one has pitied me in 300 years, she said. "You are either very brave or very foolish. Probably both." Neela spoke again, more insistent this time. Talani's expression softened further. "She asks if you will stay for dinner. She wishes to hear stories of Earth. I should get back to work." The station master has been informed you are my guest. Please. Something vulnerable flickered in Talani's eyes. Neela has few enough chances to be a child. Let her enjoy this. How could he refuse that? Dayan found himself nodding again, and Neela's delighted squeal made the awkwardness worth it. Dinner was served in a chamber that could have held 100 people, but contained only 3. Neela sat between them, eyes wide as Dayan told simplified stories of Earth's history. The Great Ocean Cleanup, the Mars colonies, the first contact disaster that had almost ended humanity's expansion into space. He kept the language simple, his implant translating into Valoran for Neela's benefit. Talani listened too. He noticed. Really listened, not with imperial assessment, but genuine curiosity. Between courses, she shared pieces of her own story. How she'd inherited the throne at 20 after her parents died in a territorial war. How she'd spent 2 centuries building an empire that valued stability over expansion. How lonely it was to rule when everyone wanted something from you. Even the Ravager hunt, she admitted, was meant to prove strength to the outer systems. They question whether a female ruler can protect them. That's garbage, Dayan said. You took down that thing in under 3 minutes. I've seen military units trained for years who couldn't do that. Yet you, with no training, faced it with a plasma cutter. That was different. That was just stupid human instinct. You actually knew what you were doing. Talani's smile was warmer this time. I think I understand why the galactic community finds humans so puzzling. You have courage, but call it stupidity. You save strangers, but think it requires no reward. Where I come from, that's just being decent. Then Earth must be remarkable indeed. Neela yawned enormously, and Talani summoned a servant to take her to bed. The child hugged Dayan fiercely before she left, whispering something in Valoran that made his implant chime with uncertain translation. She said you have a good heart spirit, Talani explained. It is the highest compliment a Valoran child can give. Alone with the Empress, Dayan felt suddenly self-conscious. She was studying him again with those molten gold eyes, and he couldn't read her expression at all. I should go, he said. Let you rest. Must you? Talani rose from her seat with fluid grace. I find myself reluctant for this evening to end. It has been many years since I spoke with someone who wanted nothing from me. I wanted dinner, Dayan pointed out. Pretty sure that's something. You know what I mean. She moved to the viewport, gazing out at the stars. In 300 years, I have built an empire, commanded armies, negotiated treaties. I have done everything expected of an empress. But I have not had a conversation that made me laugh. Not until tonight. Dayan joined her at the viewport. Station Kepler hung in the distance, a tiny speck of metal and light against the infinite dark. That sounds incredibly lonely. It is the price of power. Doesn't have to be. Talani looked at him sharply. You think I choose this isolation? I think maybe you've gotten so used to being an empress that you forgot you could also just be a person. Dayan gestured at the empty dining chamber. All this space, all this wealth, and you're eating dinner alone except for your daughter. When's the last time you had a friend? The question clearly struck something deep. Talani's composure cracked slightly, showing the loneliness beneath. Empresses do not have friends. We have allies, servants, subjects. That's the saddest thing I've ever heard. Is it? Talani's voice held a note of challenge. What do you suggest, human? That I abandon my responsibilities to pursue companionship? I suggest that maybe an empress who has someone she trusts is stronger than one who stands alone. Even if that someone is just a maintenance engineer who doesn't know when to run from giant murder monsters. For a long moment, Talani just stared at him. Then she laughed again, genuine and surprised. You are either the wisest person I have met or the greatest fool. I have not determined which. Why not both? This time, her laugh was fuller, and it lit up her whole face. Daeon felt something shift in his chest, a warmth that had nothing to do with the temperature-controlled environment. He'd thought her striking before, but seeing her genuinely happy made her radiant. "Stay," Talani said suddenly. "Not on the transport, but on Station Kepler. Let me hire you as a consultant to the Imperial Engineering course. We can—" She hesitated, vulnerability showing through. "We can continue these conversations. You want to hire me so we can talk?" "Yes." She lifted her chin, defiant and somehow uncertain at once. "Is that foolish?" "Maybe," Daeon admitted. "But I'd like that." The smile she gave him could have powered the station's reactors. Over the following weeks, Daehyun found himself summoned to the Imperial transport with increasing frequency, always for some official reason. A consultation on station repairs, an assessment of the Ravager containment field, a discussion of human engineering techniques. But the meetings always ended with dinner, just the three of them, and conversation that had nothing to do with official business. Neela adopted Daehyun as her honorary uncle, demanding stories and showing him her collection of star maps and ancient Valoran poetry. Through the child, Daehyun saw more of Talani's true self, the way she braided her daughter's hair with infinite patience, the soft song she sang in ancient Valoran that made Neela's eyes grow heavy, the fierce protectiveness that underlay every Imperial decision. And Talani, in turn, seemed fascinated by everything human. She asked endless questions about Earth, about Daehyun's childhood and soul, about human customs and beliefs. She laughed at his stories of construction disasters and listened with rapt attention to his descriptions of monsoon season and autumn leaves and foods he missed from home. "You make Earth sound like paradise," she said one evening, after Neela had been carried to bed. "It's not," Daehyun said honestly. "It's complicated and messy and full of problems. But it's home. The good and the bad together. I envy that." Talani's fingers traced patterns on the armrest of her chair. "I have spent so long being Empress that I have forgotten what home feels like. Valora is my responsibility, not my sanctuary. What would your sanctuary look like if you could have one?" She considered the question seriously. "Somewhere quiet, with growing things and open sky. Somewhere I could be only myself, not the weight of 40 systems. That sounds nice. An impossible dream for an Empress." "Maybe." Daehyun leaned forward. "Or maybe you've been Empress so long you've forgotten that you're allowed to want things too." Talani met his eyes, and the air between them suddenly felt charged with something undefined but powerful. "And if what I want is impossible?" "Like what?" "Like this." She gestured between them. "These evenings. This ease. This sense that I could tell you anything and you would not use it against me or fear me for it. That is impossible for an Empress to have." "It doesn't seem impossible to me. We're doing it right now. For how long?" Her voice held a note of frustration. "Eventually, you will return to Earth or move to another station. I will return to Valora and my duties. This is a moment outside time, nothing more." Adan's heart hammered in his chest. "Does it have to be? What are you suggesting?" "I don't know," he admitted. "I just know that when I'm with you, I feel like I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. And I think maybe you feel that too." Talani stood abruptly and moved to the viewport. Her reflection in the glass looked troubled. "You do not understand what you are saying. I am not simply a woman you can court with dinner and conversation. I am the Valoran Empress. My life is not my own. Every choice I make affects millions. I understand that. Do you?" She turned to face him. "Do you understand that even acknowledging these feelings could destabilize the Empire? That my advisors would never accept a human consort? That the outer systems would see it as weakness?" The words hit like a physical blow, consort. She'd thought this through that far. Is that what this is? Dahan asked quietly. Feelings? Talani's composure finally broke completely. Yes, she whispered. Ancestors help me, yes. From the moment you charged the Ravager to save my daughter, I have been unable to stop thinking about you. Your courage, your kindness, your refusal to treat me as anything other than a person. And it is impossible, Dayan. Completely impossible. He crossed the room to stand before her. My grandmother used to say that nothing good ever came from doing only what was possible. The best things in life required reaching for the impossible and believing you could make it real. Your grandmother never had to rule an empire. No, but she escaped North Korea on foot, built a restaurant from nothing, and lived to see her grandson work in space. She knew about impossible things. He reached out slowly, giving Talani every chance to pull away. When she didn't, he took her hand. I'm not saying this is easy. I'm saying maybe it's worth trying. You would give up your life, your work, everything you know for a possibility. I'd give it up for you. The words hung in the air between them. Talani's eyes shimmered with unshed tears. That is the most foolish thing anyone has ever said to me. Then we match. Remember? Wise or foolish, why not both? She laughed, the sound halfway to a sob, and then she was kissing him. It was desperate and sweet, and tasted of starlight and possibility. Dayan wrapped his arms around her and felt her melt into the embrace like someone finding water after years in the desert. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Talani rested her forehead against his. This will be difficult, she said. The advisors, the outer systems, the protocols. I can do difficult. They will say terrible things about you. About us. Let them. You are either the bravest person I have ever met or the most foolish. Why not both? She kissed him again, softer this time, and Dayan felt like he was falling into starlight. The next morning, Talani summoned her senior advisors to the transport. Dayan stood beside her as she announced her intention to take a human as consort. The room exploded into protest. Too soon after her late husband's death, even though that had been decades ago. Politically disastrous. An insult to Valoran tradition. The arguments came fast and furious, some advisors barely containing their outrage. Talani listened to it all with imperial calm. When the storm finally quieted, she spoke. I am Empress because my decisions have kept the empire stable and prosperous for 200 years. I have earned the right to choose my own companion. The human Dayan saved my daughter's life at risk of his own. He has proven himself worthy of consideration. He is not Valoran, one advisor said flatly. The people will never accept him. Then the people will learn. Talani replied with steel in her voice. As you will. This is not a request. I am informing you of my decision. Your Majesty, please reconsider. Enough. Power rolled off Talani in waves, making the air shimmer. I have given my life to this empire. I have sacrificed pleasures, friendships, decades of possibility to be the Empress you needed. Now I ask for one thing that is mine alone. If you cannot grant me that, then perhaps I am not truly your Empress, but merely your puppet. The silence that followed was absolute. Finally, the eldest advisor, a woman who'd served under Talani's parents, bowed deeply. The Empress speaks with wisdom. We will support your decision. It wasn't universal agreement, but it was acceptance. Talani's hand found Dayan's under the table and squeezed out. The news spread across the empire like wildfire. Public opinion was mixed, predictably. Some saw it as a romantic story, the Empress who'd saved a human finding love with the human who'd saved her daughter. Others viewed it as a betrayal of tradition. The outer systems grumbled, but didn't revolt. And humanity, unsurprisingly, thought the whole thing was hilarious. A maintenance engineer from Seoul dating an alien empress became the most popular story on Earth's nets. "They're calling you the Space Cinderella," Daeyoon reported, scrolling through messages from friends and family. "Also, my mother wants to know when she can meet you." Talani, reading reports in her office, looked up with genuine alarm. "Meet me?" She's very traditional about these things. Also very nosy. Fair warning, she will ask when we're having children and feed you enough food to burst. I have negotiated with the Orion Collective and stared down the Ravager of 6. But your mother frightens me, as she should. They were learning to navigate the impossible together. Daehyun moved into quarters on the transport, though he kept his job on Station Kepler for the illusion of normalcy. Neela was thrilled to have him around constantly, dragging him into her studies and games. The crew slowly warmed to him, seeing how genuinely happy the Empress became when he was near. But not everyone was pleased. 3 months into their relationship, an assassination attempt nearly succeeded. A disgruntled Outer Systems faction had bribed a servant to poison Talani's evening meal. Only Daehyun's human-trained paranoia, honed by years of construction site safety protocols, caught the odd smell. He knocked the cup from Talani's hand just before she could drink, and security captured the would-be assassin. The incident shook them both. Talani withdrew into herself, the walls going back up. For 3 days, she barely spoke to Daehyun, conducting only official business with mechanical precision. Finally, Daehyun had enough. He found her in her private chambers, staring at nothing. "Talk to me," he said. "They tried to kill me because I chose you. They tried to kill you because they're ambitious traitors who would have found any excuse. Don't put that on us. If I had remained alone, you'd still be in danger, just for different reasons. And you'd be miserable." He knelt in front of her chair. "Talani, you can't protect everyone from everything. Not me, not Neela, not the Empire. All you can do is live your life as fully as possible and hope it's enough. That is not very Empress-like wisdom. Good thing I'm not an Empress." She finally looked at him. Really looked, and he saw the fear beneath the imperial mask. "I cannot lose you. Either of you. Neela is my heart, but you have become essential. If choosing you puts you in danger, then I'm in danger. I accept that." He took her hands. "I'm not going anywhere, Talani. You're stuck with me, even though it would be safer if you left. Especially then." She pulled him up and kissed him with desperate intensity. "You are the greatest fool in the galaxy." "Yeah, but I'm your fool." "Mine," she agreed. And the possessiveness in her voice sent heat through him. The assassination attempt had one positive outcome. It forced the Outer Systems to choose sides. The faction responsible was revealed and punished, and the remaining systems formally recognized Daehyun's position as Imperial consort. It wasn't universal love, but it was enough. A year after the Ravager incident, Talani invited Daehyun's family to Valora for an official visit. His mother took one look at the Empress and began planning a wedding. His father, more practical, asked detailed questions about Valoran engineering. His younger sister spent the entire visit trying to get Neela to teach her Valoran curse words. "Your family is wonderful chaos," Talani said on the last night of their visit, watching from a balcony as the 3 generations of Daehyun's family argued cheerfully over dinner. "That's one word for it. They love you very much. They also think I'm insane for dating an alien empress, but yeah, they love me." He slipped an arm around her waist. "Does it bother you? How different they are from Valoran nobility." "It makes me envious," she admitted. "My parents were kind but formal. I've never sat around a table and argued about whose turn it is to wash dishes. Never had someone tease me simply for the joy of it. Your family does those things naturally, as if everyone deserves warmth and laughter regardless of status. Everyone does deserve that. I am learning this. From you. She leaned into his embrace. You have changed me, Tame. Made me remember that being Empress is something I do, not something I am. The Empire is stronger for it. Pretty sure the Empire's strength comes from having you as Empress, not from me. We can share the credit. Inside, his mother called for them to join the celebration. Apparently, his sister had successfully convinced Neela to teach her those curse words, and the resulting chaos required adult intervention. Talani laughed, took Dayan's hand, and together they went to join the beautiful mess of family Dob later that night. After his family had been escorted to guest quarters and Neela had been put to bed, Talani led Dayan to the palace gardens. The Valoran night sky blazed with 3 moons and a belt of stars that put Earth's night sky to shame. She'd arranged for a private area, surrounded by flowering plants that glowed softly in the darkness. I have something to ask you, she said. And for the first time since he'd known her, she looked genuinely nervous. You can ask me anything. Even this? She produced a small box from the folds of her gown. Inside was a ring wrought in silver and gold, set with a stone that seemed to hold captured starlight. In Valoran tradition, when one wishes to commit their life to another, they offer a piece of their soul made manifest. This ring was my grandmother's and her grandmother's before her. It has protected 7 generations of empresses. Dayan's breath caught. Talani, I know human customs are different, but in any language, in any culture, I believe the sentiment is the same. I love you, Tame. You have shown me what it means to be truly seen, truly valued, not for power or position, but simply for myself. Will you stand beside me, not as subject or servant, but as partner? Will you let me love you for all the years we have? He was definitely crying now. No point hiding it. That's the best offer I've ever heard. Is that a yes? That's a hell yes. She slipped the ring onto his finger, and it resized itself to fit perfectly, humming with warmth and ancient power. Then she was in his arms, and they were both laughing and crying and kissing under the light of 3 moons. My wise fool, she whispered against his lips. My impossible Empress, he whispered back. Somewhere in the palace, Neela would be sleeping peacefully, safe, and loved. Across the Empire, 40 systems spun on in their orbits, stable and prosperous under Talani's rule. And on Earth, a maintenance bay on Station Kepler would need a new engineer. Because Dayan had found something worth more than any job. He'd found home. In the arms of someone who'd thought no one could reach her. He'd found love with an Empress who'd forgotten what it felt like to be simply human. And in the impossible space between duty and desire, they'd built something that would outlast empires and echo across the stars. The Ravager of 6 was contained, no longer a threat. But Dayan had tamed something far more dangerous, an Empress's lonely heart. And in doing so, he'd proven that humanity's greatest strength wasn't technology or cleverness, but the stubborn refusal to accept that love could ever be impossible. The stars wheeled overhead in their eternal dance. And beneath them, 2 people from different worlds held each other and planned a future that neither could have imagined alone. It wouldn't be easy. There would be challenges ahead, political storms to weather, and a galaxy that didn't always understand what they built, but they would face it together. The way they'd faced everything since that day when a human engineer had done something impossibly stupid and brave, and caught an Empress's eye. Sometimes, Dayan thought as Talani pulled him closer, the best things in life came from reaching for the impossible and believing you could make it real. His grandmother had been right about that, and she would have loved Talani, impossible Empress and all.